All right, so since we broke for Ed's presentation, we have actually been joined by Bob Lasher. So Bob joined PSTA as a community media and government liaison in March of 2005. He began an early career in broadcast news as a reporter, with the majority of his media career was spent as a television news anchor and producer. So Bob and Gloria are going to take it away with a presentation on pedestrian and transit rider safety. So thank you, Gloria and Bob.
Thank you,
Thanks, Chelsea. And yeah, I'm going to adjust my camera a little. Yeah, I was in television news. Please don't hold that against me. I'm not proud of it. We're here today to talk about a neat program, our pedestrian and transit rider safety program. And it started with our Transit Rider Advisory Committee. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Gloria. It was established in 2014, and what we do is we bring in riders from all over our service area. By the way, Pinellas, a lot of people don't know where that is. That's in the Tampa Bay area and encompasses Clearwater, St. Petersburg. We're the peninsula to the west of Tampa Bay. And we bring in riders from all over the service area and with all different backgrounds to help us improve the system. It's so important. They meet every month and we run things by them. We bring them pretty much the same things we bring to our committees and boards of directors because we need their input as well. It's just too important. So they advise us on all kinds of the aspects of our system, give us great feedback and help us do things that we just otherwise couldn't do and learn because they're out and about every day. And they're selected based on their life experiences, also demographics as to where they live. We try to get a cross section from different ages, people who are students, professionals, you name it, because we want to keep it nice and diverse. And we've been very proud of it. And you'll see one of our greatest outcomes of it. Go ahead, next slide. And what we're going to talk about today is it's really the brainchild of my co-host, Miss Gloria Lepek-Corrigan. She is on our track committee now. She was the chair when we started a program called the Track Star Award. It was her initiative. She's very humble about it, so I'm going to brag for her. And it has been a great program. We're really proud of it. We've had great response for it. And I'm going to hand it over to her and let her take you through it.
Thank you, Bob. Well, interestingly, as we're talking about safety for pedestrians, I think one of the important things from this program and working with PSTA is people have talked about cooperation. And this is exactly what the kind of thing we're talking about. PSTA has been absolutely wonderful at listening to the voices of the riders and really caring what we are experiencing. And as a rider and pedestrian, I find it to be wonderful to have a group of riders where we can collectively have a voice as well, so that we as non-drivers are heard. We're not just sort of, oh yeah, there are buses, oh yeah, there are pedestrians. In 2017, as part of our committee, we went to PSTA and we said, you know, we have these meetings and you tell us about the programs you're putting on and we vote on whether we agree with it or not. But we wanted to have our own voice as well. We really wanted to tell them what we were experiencing, the things we knew as riders that other people didn't see because they weren't necessarily riders. And so we asked them about what's the best way to do this? And we actually created several initiatives. One that dealt with regionalism, how important it is to us as transit riders to be able to cross county lines and have it be fairly invisible. And then the biggest issue, though, for us was safety. And an important part of safety is what we've realized with transit rider safety is that buses are really quite safe. But the bus stops sometimes aren't. But again, PSTA the transit agency has control over the safety of the buses. They have some control over the safety of the bus stops. But the pathways to and from bus stops are very often unsafe. In fact, I would have to say they're unsafe more often than they're safe. And it was very important that we had a chance to speak about this, about the importance of this to us. We're planning a door to door. We're knowing that we want to know that we're safe from when we walk out of our homes to when we get to our destination to when we return to our homes. And that was often a real issue for us that we weren't. So like I said, in 2017, the Transit Riders Advisory Committee really created this safety initiative. And the safety initiative involved a letter that was sent to the board of PSTA. It was sent to Forward Pinellas, our metropolitan planning organization. It was sent to FDOT. It was sent to local and state representatives and city councils. And it talked about the safety of pedestrians and transit riders, the transit riders who are pedestrians. And it highlighted, among other things, several danger zones. For example, the fact that many people who don't ride transit don't realize that when you get off a bus at one point to go to a store or a doctor's office, to get on a return bus, you have to get to the other side of the street. And so that's why you so often see transit riders crossing the streets at mid-block crossings where there aren't actually marked crossings, but it's very hard for them to get to where the next lights are. And we also talked about the whole idea of you get to a shopping center or a mall and discover that there's not a safe way to get from the bus stop into the shopping center or to the front door of a store. And then things like I mentioned about, the safety of the actual sidewalks, getting to the different locations. After about a year, okay, that was 2017 when we did that, we didn't notice any specific actions that had happened, or very few. And so we asked, well, how do we move forward with this? And we approached again PSTA and said, what can be some good next steps? And they recommended that we put together some ideas for how we can reward people. We don't have power except the power of speaking to people and telling people you're doing it right. And so one of those next steps was they encouraged us to create something, and they worked with us, their advertising and marketing department worked with us to create, what's the next slide, the Transit Riders Safe Transit Access Recognition Award. And I'm going to turn it back over to Bob, and he's going to talk about how that Transit Riders Access Reward Program is implemented. And then I will come back and tell you some examples of people who did it right. So.
All right, thanks, Gloria. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This award is to honor any group, any organization, any governmental entity. It can even be a community group like a Rotary or whatnot, who does something to make it safer and easier for people to access transit or to get from transit to a certain destination. It's also a way to encourage transit-oriented development, which it's so wonky, but there's really no other way to say it. I have never liked that term, because when you use it, people will often scratch their head, as I just did, ironically. But it can be really simple. As you drive down the road and you go by most stores, say your grocery store, what do you see? You see the parking lot, you pull in, and then the grocery store is a long ways away. Well, transit-oriented development is as simple enough as just turning that 90 degrees so that the entrance to the store is right on the roadway. So when a bus comes by, drops someone off, they get right to the door. They don't have to navigate through all of these cars through this big parking lot. And this is the type of thing we wanted to let people know about. You can go ahead to the next slide. We wanted to encourage it and let them know that it is really simple. It doesn't have to be a massive investment. And anyone can nominate an entity for a Track Star Award, including the entity itself. We've had people in a city nominate some of their colleagues for a Star Award, and that's fine. Some of the examples are improving access to and from a bus stop, curb cuts, making it easier for people in mobility devices to get up and down, putting in new crosswalks or maybe a lighted crosswalk, transit accessibility and the construction codes. And of course, as we mentioned, making changes to make things just more like transit-oriented development. You can go to the next slide. And you'll see coming up some of the neat and it's been really kind of neat. We wanted to do something that not only recognized the organizations, but also gave them some good publicity. elevated their profile and helped people who might not otherwise be aware of things like this to learn about some of the issues when you're riding transit. And the nominees, there are a lot of different ways you can, but it's got to be a specific effort to improve access to transit or from transit to a destination. Especially, we love when they have a collaborative effort with public and private partners. The P3s are very popular. And then what we ask is that you submit photographs of the location and some background information on what the submission includes. Go ahead with the next slide. And then those will be screened by a review committee of some of our employees, and our track coordinator will bring those, and everything that meets the criteria, which is also on our website at psta.net. You see it here /track. Then we bring those to the full track committee, and that will be discussed and presented. And then when they approve it, and almost always by that time they will, it's because it's usually something really pretty neat. Then we have our marketing department make up a plaque, and we set up a presentation at a city council, county commission, whatever meeting that can be, to let these people get their award and to help really promote the whole program, as well as the importance of transit rider safety to the community who will be watching and involved in those meetings. And at this point, I'm going to let Gloria take you through it, because these are something that I think are really neat, and this is where she really shined.
Well, I agree with you. I think they're really neat also. This one was one that was so interesting. It was our first award recipient, Woodland Square Shopping Center in Oldsmar. And you never know exactly where your actions have an impact. But I know at the time when this occurred, the mayor of Oldsmar at the time was also on the board of PSTA. And so I know he heard our presentation about rider safety. And in fact, he and I spoke about it afterward. And it was around that same time when a shopping center in Oldsmar was redeveloping. And the people within the city of Oldsmar worked with the developer, Ram Realty, and they actually put in some wonderful pedestrian walkways. So was it a result of our safety initiative? It may well have been. I'm not exactly sure. But I'd like to show you a video of exactly what occurred here.
We all have our interests in transit and making transit better.
PSTA's Transit Riders Advisory Committee, or TRAC, is made up of riders from all parts of Pinellas County.
They really count on the feedback they get from us as riders about what we need to have, what's good, what's bad, what could be improved.
Each month, PSTA leadership meets with the TRAC, and it's at these meetings members will approve the recipients for their new TRAC Star Award. The award was created to honor public and private organizations that make significant efforts to improve access and safety for transit riders.
Because every transit rider is a pedestrian, and if we want more people to use transit, then we want to get more people out walking. And we just have to make it easier for people to see how they can get to the front door from the sidewalk, how they can get through a parking lot safely without fear of being run over by somebody who's not watching for a pedestrian.
You don't really realize it until you try and traverse a parking lot with cars and trucks and everything else.
Mayor Doug Beavis is talking about the Woodland Square Shopping Center in Oldsmar. He and Ram Realty were selected as PSTA's first TRAC stars. Before the center made improvements, pedestrian access looked like this.
There was absolutely no safe way to get from the sidewalk into the shopping center other than going in active car lanes.
It was just part of our development agreement that the developer in the redevelopment had to incorporate these features, and fairly easily to accomplish, and they really looked forward to doing it and being a partner with the city.
Now that improvements have been made, riders and pedestrians like Gloria can enter safely from the sidewalk.
The point of the program is to make everyone aware of the importance of having pedestrian, bicycle, non-driver safety as part of the decision process as centers are built, as they're redeveloped.
For more information on the PSTA TRAC, or if you'd like to nominate someone for a TRAC Star Award, just visit psta.net/TRAC.
One of the things that was interesting, by the way, on the last slide was that people forget that transit riders and pedestrians are also customers. And that was one of the other important things we talked about with the people from Graham Realty and the people from the city is, if you want people to shop, if you want transit riders to make it easy for them to shop. I never ever shopped at Woodland Square because there wasn't access. After that, I was going there. This second award is one that was also wonderful, and this dealt with the Pinellas County Public Works. There's Meath Countryside Hospital is one of the key hospitals in the northern part of our county, and they are located along a busy 4-lane road, and there are bus stops there. But the problem is there was absolutely no safe pedestrian walkway, even at the main street going into the hospital there. And we pointed it out to Pinellas County Public Works, and they fixed it so quickly. They put in a beautiful walkway there. And before that, we would see people who worked in the hospital. We saw patients crossing the street where there was no crosswalk. They were always at risk of being hit by fast-moving cars. The amount of pedestrian safety that came from this simple recognition was, I believe, very high. And so it was wonderful to see and to be able to give the award to both to the Pinellas County Public Works and to FDOT, and to highlight it to the hospital so they recognize the value. And then the third one I wanted to talk about is something that deals with FDOT again and with Forward Pinellas, and that they've talked about the importance on US Highway 19, which is such a busy, busy road. But the 19 bus, people get off on one side, they have to get to the other side. They're in the process right now of putting in, or they're planning an overpass that will occur at a side road called Republic Drive. And in their planning process this time around, they were very careful to make sure that they had planned in a pedestrian access route. And so they actually are going to put in this underpass for people to go from one side of the highway to the other, so that they don't have to go a half a mile to get to the next light. So again, this was wonderful to give the award to Forward Pinellas and FDOT for this great planning process. And we hope to see these kinds of planning processes going forward. I don't know, were we a part of why they made that decision? I hope so, but whether we were or we weren't, it's good to know that they're doing it. And so just in the future, we are continuing to look at any of the Vision Zero programs are really very much targets for, this may be a good Track Star Award recipient. We are constantly reaching out to businesses and shopping centers to continue to try to have them do the right thing. And then there are citizens committees like the Transit Riders Committee and the committees within Forward Pinellas, and some of the disability committees within a lot of the municipalities. So all good opportunities for finding ways to catch them doing the right thing. I guess we're at the point of questions now. If we have
all right, thank you both very much for this great presentation. I really like the broad diversity of award recipients that the track has given this star award to. That's probably partially why, Gloria, you were the recipient of one of our Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit Awards 2 years ago for your advocacy efforts on this issue. So thank you both very much.